was running when the klaxon started. Not the soft alert used for drills. This was the hard one. The kind that cut through suit audio and rattled your teeth. Sublevel Corridor C dropped into emergency red as I pushed off the bulkhead and floated forward, boots scraping to find traction. Low gravity made everything slower. Panic made it worse. My helmet visor was cracked on the right side. A spiderweb fracture. HUD flickering, but still alive. Oxygen steady at 68%. Heart rate blinking yellow. Behind me, a sealed pressure door slammed once. Not an alarm. A hit. I spun, raised my wrist, and slapped my badge to the reader on the next hatch. The scanner chirped, then went flat. Access denied. Level restricted. That made no sense. Corridor C was cleared for internal security. I'd walked it twice that shift. Central, this is Mercer, I said, forcing my voice level. I've got an access failure and possible breach. Mercer, stop transmitting, command snapped back. No delay. Too fast for Earth. You are not authorized to report on this channel. The door behind me hit again. Harder. The metal bowed inward by a few millimeters, just enough to see it move. My HUD overlaid the corridor map. Floor markers scrolled past as I drifted. C3. T4. There was no C4 on the official map. My private channel crackled. Static, then a voice. Easy, Dan, it said. Calm, da-da-da-din. Familiar. Using my call sign. You're not supposed to be down there yet. It was my voice, and it was coming from behind the door. Central cut the feed, and every light ahead of me went dark at once. They told me to forget what I saw, but my badge remembered. Security on Mars isn't about guns or chasing people down corridors. It's about routines, checklists, making sure nothing changes, because change is what kills you out here. My name is Daniel Mercer. I was a contract security officer for Helios Frontier Solutions, assigned to Ares Prime Habitat in 2041. Second rotation. Long-term posting. By the time this starts, Mars already felt normal to me, which is how it gets you. Every shift began the same way. Suit seal check, even for internal patrols. Oxygen mix verified. Comms tested against habitat control, then against the local relay. I logged my start time, synced my badge, and waited for the green line that meant all systems agreed I existed. Ares Prime was built in layers. That's how Helios explained it during onboarding. Surface structures for docking and cargo. Mid-level habitation rings for crew. What? Below that, engineering, power, life support. Each layer had its own pressure seals, its own redundancies, its own access rules. You didn't wander. You followed the map, and the map followed you. Most of my patrols were quiet. Too quiet. The air always smelled recycled, like plastic and metal that had been breathed through too many times. The floor vibrated faintly from the reactor below, a constant reminder that Mars didn't care whether we were here or not. I liked the quiet. It meant everything was working. Laura Chen ran operations. Ops lead. Calm voice, clean reports, never wasted words. She'd been with Helios longer than anyone on my shift, and she trusted the system completely. When Laura said a corridor was secure, it was secure. When she said don't ask questions, you didn't. Routine only, Mercer, she told me more than once. Security is about stability, not curiosity. Helios drilled that into us. Stability. Predictability. Trust the protocols. Trust the people who wrote them. And for the most part, it worked. But there were small things. Things you notice only after months of walking the same paths. Some corridors didn't have labels. Not restricted. Not maintenance. Just blank panels where signage should have been. When I asked, Laura said they were legacy zones. Old construction paths. Nothing active. Power readings sometimes spiked for no reason. A draw that didn't match any logged equipment. Engineering blamed sensor drift. Mars dust got everywhere, even inside sealed habitats somehow. There was also the floor numbering. Officially, Ares Prime had 6 internal levels below the surface ring, C1 through C6. That was it. The map was clear. The training modules were clear. But during patrols, my HUD would occasionally flicker and correct itself. A number would appear for half a second, then vanish. I assumed it was a display bug. Everyone did. There was a standing order never to question floor numbering anomalies. It was buried in the security handbook, phrased like a joke. If your HUD hiccups, recalibrate and move on. So we did. My badge was my lifeline. Hardware locked, radiation shielded, synced to my biometrics. If it opened a door, I belonged there. If it didn't, I turned around. Simple. Helios-like simple. At the end of each shift, I filed my report. No incidents. No breaches. No deviations. Most days, the log felt pointless. Mars wasn't dangerous inside the habitat. People were trained. Systems were redundant. Everything had a backup. That was the comfort of it. The belief that if something went wrong, there would be alarms. Procedures. Someone in Opus watching it happen. Looking back, that trust was my biggest blind spot. Because Mars doesn't rush you. It lets you settle in. It lets you believe the danger is outside, in the dust and radiation and empty sky. I believed that too. The first time my badge hesitated, I told myself it was just dust. The first time it happened, I was halfway through a routine internal sweep. Bio. No suit, just a light harness and wrist console. Internal atmosphere was stable. Pressure steady. Oxygen, mix, nominal. It was the kind of shift where your mind drifts if you let it. Corridor C was empty, lights bright, floor clean. I checked my checklist as I walked. Bulkhead seals, green terrain. Fire suppression nodes, green. Environmental sensors, green across the board. Then I reached the door. It was a standard pressure hatch, identical to a dozen others on that level. Matte gray, no warning stripes, no restricted signage. According to my route map, it led to an auxiliary storage section I'd cleared before. I raised my wrist and pressed my badge to the reader. The scanner chirped once, then displayed a message I'd never seen before. Access denied, location not found. I pulled my wrist back and frowned. That wasn't a permission error. That was a system error. I tried again. Same result. I tapped my console and brought up the local map. ... The corridor rendered cleanly, but where the door should have been, there was nothing. Just a blank stretch of wall. The system insisted I was standing in empty space. I turned and looked behind me. The corridor was still there. The door was still there. Solid. Bolted into the bulkhead. I did what protocol says to do. I checked my badge diagnostics. Hardware sync. Good. Biometrics. Confirmed. Firmware. Current. I flagged ops. Laura, this is Mercer, I said. I've got a badge rejection on Corridor C, mid-level. System says the location doesn't exist. There was a pause. Not long, but noticeable. Stand by, Laura Chen replied. Calm as ever. Recalibrate your HUD and continue patrol. That's it, I asked. The door is not on your route, she said. Log it as a sensor error. The channel closed. I stood there longer than I should have. 5 seconds. 10. The longer I looked at the door, the more wrong it felt. Not dangerous. Just ignored. Like it had slipped between updates. I marked a temporary note in my console. Non-critical anomaly. HUD desync. Exactly the kind of thing that vanished in daily log reviews. When I turned to leave, the power readings on my wrist spiked. A sudden draw, deep below the habitat. Not enough to trigger alarms, but enough to notice if you were watching the numbers. I wasn't supposed to be watching those numbers. Security didn't monitor power distribution in detail. I pinged maintenance anyway. Mark Holloway answered. Systems, tech. Late shift, like me. Hey Mark, I said. Quick question. You seeing any weird draws on the grid near Corridor C? There was a brief hiss of static. Then his voice dropped. Don't flag that, he said. What? Just don't put it in the main log, Mark said. If you already did, mark it as resolved. Why? I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. Because it'll get wiped, he said. And if it gets wiped, someone will ask why you noticed. That doesn't make sense, I said. It does if you stop thinking about it, Mark replied. Listen, Dan, some things here aren't broken. They're just not for us. The line went dead. I finished my patrol, but my head wasn't in it anymore. Every sensor reading felt suspect. Every quiet corridor felt staged. At the end of the shift, I pulled the logs. The anomaly report I'd half written was gone. Not archived. Not flagged. Gone. In its place was a generic entry stamped with my ID and a timecode I didn't recognize. The timestamp was wrong. It showed the report filed 6 minutes before I reached Corridor C. I checked system time. Correct. I checked my suit recorder. Correct. The only thing out of sync was the log itself. I exported a local copy to my private storage. Not standard procedure. But it wasn't prohibited either. Yet. As I was logging out, I noticed one more thing. The door had a designation code in the system metadata. Not a name. Just a string of numbers. And it didn't match any level assigned to Ares Prime. I shut down my console and told myself I was overthinking it. Mars did strange things to electronics. Everyone knew that. But as I left the corridor, I felt it. The sense that something beneath Ares Prime was awake, drawing power, and paying attention. The door wasn't locked. It was pretending not to be there. I didn't sleep after that shift. Mars nights are quiet in a way Earth never is. No wind. No insects. Just the hum of systems and your own breath if you let the silence in. I lay in my bunk and replayed the log discrepancy over and over, trying to explain it without using words Helios didn't like. By morning, I stopped trying. Instead of filing anything official, I accessed the archive. Security clearance doesn't mean much on paper. In practice, it means you know which doors to knock on and which ones not to touch. Helios kept old mission data sealed behind obsolete file formats and deprecated interfaces. Most people never bothered learning them. I did. I pulled records from the first Ares Prime survey mission, then the second, then the construction phase. Each set was clean on the surface, redacted where you'd expect, but the deeper metadata told a different story. There were references to a level that didn't exist. Sublevel 0. It appeared only in power allocation tables and structural stress reports. No schematics. No crew assignments. Just numbers feeding into the habitat from below the lowest mapped point. Something had been there before we arrived. I requested a meeting with Dr. Evan Richter, under the pretense of a sensor audit. Richter was science lead. Geology, exobiology, systems integration. The kind of man who spoke softly because he was used to rooms listening. His lab was tucked near the lower engineering ring. White panels. Soft light. Too clean. What do you want, Mercer? He asked, not looking up from his console. I want to know why my badge doesn't open doors that don't exist, I said. That got his attention. He closed his terminal and gestured for me to sit. His eyes flicked once to the room's camera before he spoke. You didn't hear this from me, Richter said. And you didn't find it in any official file. Where did I find it? I asked. He hesitated. That was answer enough. Before Ares Prime, he said, there was a survey bore, deep, far deeper than public reports. We weren't looking for life. We were looking for stability. And? I asked. And we found structure, Richter said. Not geological, not random, patterned. My stomach tightened. Pre-human, I asked. Pre-anything we recognize, he said. No tool marks, no alloys, just absence. Cavities where matter should have been arranged differently. He pulled up a visualization. Sensor data rendered into ghostly shapes. Negative space forming angles that shouldn't hold. We built around it, he continued. Encased it. Sublevel 0 was never meant for people. It was meant to keep something isolated. Something alive? I asked. Richter shook his head. That word doesn't fit. He showed me another feed. Motion, data, or what passed for it. Shapes that shifted when the camera refreshed, then froze when the image stabilized. No mass, he said. No heat signature, but it moves. When? I asked. When it isn't being observed, he replied. The lights flickered. Just once. Enough to notice. Richter froze. That shouldn't. The camera feeded on his wall monitor looped. 10 seconds repeating. The same technician, walking past the same console, over and over. Richter reached for the controls. The loop stopped the moment his hand touched the panel. What was that? I asked. He swallowed. Indirect contact, he said. We call it that because direct implies intention. My wrist console buzzed. Power, draw, spike. Deeper than before. Sublevel 0. You built a cage, I said. We built a lid, Richter corrected. Security isn't here to protect people. It's here to make sure the lid stays on. And if it doesn't? I asked. Richter met my eyes. Then Helios needs time. Time to study, time to decide. A chime sounded. Ops priority, ping. In this conversation, Laura Chen's voice cut in over the room speakers. Calm. Controlled. Both of you. The lights steadied. The feed normalized. Everything looked fine again. Too fine. I left the lab with more questions than answers and a growing certainty that the habitat map was a lie. The lowest level wasn't the bottom. It was a cover. That night, reviewing my private logs, I noticed something else. The camera outside my quarters had recorded movement. Only it hadn't captured anything moving. Just a blur between frames. A shift where there shouldn't have been one. Something that only existed when no one was watching. It wasn't buried by Mars. It was buried on purpose. I didn't go to Ops angry. That came later. At first I went because the facts no longer fit inside my head without breaking something. Sublevel 0. Power draws. Looping feeds. Richter's careful words. The kind of truth you don't stumble into by accident. Ops sat at the center of Ares Prime like a nerve cluster. Screens, soft lighting, filtered air. Laura Chen stood with her hands behind her back, watching data scroll past, as if nothing in the habitat had changed. I walked in and didn't salute. We need to talk, I said. She looked at me for a long second. Then she dismissed the room. Screens dimmed. Doors sealed. Privacy mode engaged. You've been digging, she said calmly. You lied, I replied. Laura didn't deny it. That hurt more than if she had. I laid it out. Sublevel 0 references. Power discrepancies. Richter's admission. The camera loops. I expected pushback. Denial. Corporate language. Instead, she sighed. Helios Frontier Solutions is not a research company, Laura said. It's a solutions company. For what? I asked. For things governments don't want to admit exist, she said. Or can't afford to ignore. She pulled up a file and slid it across the console. It wasn't redacted. It was worse. Sanitized. Clean summaries of events, stripped of emotion. Previous crews. Not one. Several. Lol. Ares Prime wasn't the first habitat. It was the last iteration. The earlier crews experienced what Helios called psychological contamination. Sleep disruption. shared hallucinations, conflicting memories, personnel reporting movement where sensors showed none. Logs were erased, careers ended. People were reassigned to Earth with non-disclosure contracts so deep they never spoke again. Some names just stopped appearing in records altogether. "You're telling me people disappeared," I said. "I'm telling you Helios learned," Laura replied. "The entity responds to observation, to attention, to signal leakage." She brought up a graph. Observation density versus activity spikes. Every time the thing was studied directly, it pushed back harder. Every time data was transmitted off-world, the habitat destabilized. "So you stopped telling Earth," I said. "We had to," she said. "Comms delay made oversight impossible anyway. By the time anyone responded, it would be too late." I felt the floor vibration change. Subtle, deep dight, like a distant engine shifting load. "What is it?" I asked. Laura chose her words carefully. "It's not life as we define it, but it adapts, learns constraints, exploits gaps. Helios believes it can be guided, directed, weaponized," I said. She didn't correct me. "That's why security is here," she continued. "Not to protect the crew, to enforce rules. Keep observation limited, keep it contained." "What rules?" I asked. She ticked them off without looking at me. "It moves when it's not being observed. It can't cross active pressure seals unless systems invite it. It reacts to transmission attempts, and it mirrors behavior after prolonged exposure." I thought of the looping feeds, the missing frames, my own voice on a channel that shouldn't exist. "You knew this would happen," I said. "We knew it might," Laura replied. "That's why you were selected. Second rotation. Clean psych profile, high protocol adherence." I laughed once. "Short, died. Sharp, .e. You picked us because we wouldn't ask questions. We picked you because you would follow orders," she said. "Until it mattered." An alert flashed on her console. "Priority directive. Blackout protocol." Laura straightened. "All outbound transmissions are suspended," she announced, her voice shifting back into command mode. "Effective immediately. Any attempt to contact Earth will be treated as a containment breach." "You're locking us in," I said. "We're already locked in," she replied. "This habitat isn't a base, Daniel. It's a cage." The lights flickered again. Longer this time. Emergency lighting hummed, then stabilized. I checked my wrist. Power draw spiking. Sublevel 0. "What happens if the rules break?" I asked. Laura met my eyes. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked tired. "Then Helios sacrifices the experiment," she said. "And everyone inside it." I thought of the logs that vanished, the names that ended, the way Mark had warned me without saying anything at all. "You expect us to just accept this," I said. "I expect you to do your job," Laura replied. "Just like every crew before you." She turned the screens back on. The room filled with data again. The conversation was over. As I left Ops, my private console chimed. A system message flagged and cleared in the same second. Access log updated. Someone had accessed my badge history. Not to revoke it, to monitor it. That was when I understood the scale of the lie. We weren't pioneers. We weren't explorers. We weren't even expendable workers on a dangerous frontier. We were variables. Test subjects inside a controlled environment, watching something that learned faster every time we looked away. And if it escaped, Helios wouldn't need to cover it up. There would be no one left to tell the story. We weren't the first crew. We were the last test. After Ops locked us down, Helios stopped pretending this was normal. They didn't announce it. There was no briefing, no all-hands message. The change showed up in smaller ways. Security protocols updated without version notes. Camera coverage quietly reduced in certain corridors. Observation windows frosted over with maintenance tags that never cleared. We were told it was for our own good. That's when they started writing the rules down. Not officially. Not in a single place. The rules emerged the way all dangerous knowledge does, pieced together from incident reports, sensor anomalies, and things people tried not to talk about. Rule 1. It moved when it wasn't being observed. We proved that by accident. During a routine systems check, I was monitoring a bank of cameras covering the lower engineering ring. Nothing unusual. No motion flags. I leaned back, looked away for maybe 3 seconds to log a power reading, then looked back. The feed had changed. Not dramatically. Just enough that my brain rejected it before I understood why. A maintenance cart that hadn't been there before. A shadow where the lighting angle didn't allow one. When I rewound the footage, the change happened during the exact moment the camera auto-refreshed while no one was actively watching the monitor. When eyes were on it, nothing moved. Rule 2. It learned. Fast. The first mimicry incident was mine. I didn't know it at the time. I was on patrol, running a voice check through a sealed corridor near the lower levels. Standard call and response to verify comm clarity. Security check, I said. Mercer on C-shift. The echo came back clean. Too clean. Later that day, reviewing footage with Laura present, we saw it. A security feed from 4 hours earlier. A corridor I hadn't been in yet. The camera showed me standing there, facing the wall, repeating the same phrase. Security check, Mercer on C-shift. Over and over. Same cadence. Same inflection. Same breathing pattern. But my log placed me 3 levels up at the time. Laura paused the feed before I could say anything. That's contamination, she said. Low level. Early. That's not contamination, I replied. That's imitation. She didn't argue. Rule 3. Cameras lied, but not randomly. Blind spots formed where there shouldn't have been any. Not blackouts. Just areas where the feed degraded slightly. Compression artifacts. Motion blur that couldn't be corrected. Mark Holloway showed me a maintenance schematic in private. It's testing coverage, he said quietly. Finding where we don't look long enough. Power started rerouting on its own after that. Circuits feeding sublevel 0 drew more than allocated, then less. Like something was breathing through the grid. Engineering tried to clamp it down. The system rerouted again, clean and efficient, as if it knew the layout better than we did. Rule 4. Pressure seals mattered. The entity pressed against them. Not physically. There were no dents, no alarms, but sensors along certain bulkheads showed micro-fluctuations. Pressure differentials that oscillated just below alert thresholds. It was probing, learning where the boundaries were. Security protocols began to fail next. Not all at once. In small, deniable ways. Badge latency increased near lower levels. Door responses lagged by half a second. Long enough to notice. Short enough to explain away. We adjusted. Added redundancy. Restricted movement. Helios ordered increased observation. That was the mistake. The more we watched, the more active it became. Richter charted it out, his hands shaking as he overlaid graphs. Observation feeds it, he said. Not attention, presence, measurement. So stop looking, I said. That's not an option, Laura replied from the doorway. Helios needs data. The moral conflict landed then, heavy and unavoidable. Every instinct I had as security said to reduce exposure. Lock down. Isolate. Minimize contact. Helios ordered the opposite. They prepared for a controlled containment breach. Not to release it. To stress the system. To see how it reacted under partial exposure. Stand down, Laura ordered when I objected. This is above your clearance. You're pushing it, I said. You don't know what it'll do. We know enough, she replied. And we need to know more. That night, the habitat felt smaller. The hum of systems was louder. The silence between alarms stretched too long. I caught myself watching cameras instead of corridors, waiting for something to change when I blinked. It did. A feed from outside my quarters flickered. For a single frame, Something like a silhouette occupied the space where I should have been standing. Then it was gone. No alarm. No log entry. Just my heart rate spiking in my wrist console. I realized then that observation wasn't just feeding it. It was teaching it. Teaching it us. Our routines. Our voices. Our patience. I shut down every camera I was authorized to touch. Logged it as a bandwidth optimization. No one stopped me. Below us, sub-level 0 drew power again. Steady. Confident. And somewhere in the habitat, a voice that sounded exactly like mine spoke into an empty corridor. It learned my voice before it learned my face. The power didn't fail all at once. That would have been easier. It started with a tremor in the lights. Not a flicker. A hesitation. Like the habitat was holding its breath. I was in Transit Ring B when my wrist console chimed a low-priority warning. Grid instability. Non-critical. I slowed, hand resting on the wall, feeling the vibration shift under my palm. Then another alert stacked on top of it. And another. Power cascade warnings climbed the screen faster than I could clear them. Feeds dropped to standby. Environmental controls rolled into conservation mode without waiting for authorization. Ops, this is Mercer, I said. I'm seeing a grid cascade. No response. The lights dimmed to emergency red, then went out completely. Total darkness on Mars is different than on Earth. There's no ambient glow. No city light bleeding through windows. Just nothing. My HUD kicked in, painting the corridor in wireframe blue. Oxygen steady. Pressure holding. For now. Life support alarms started seconds later. Co-scrubbers offline in 2 sections. Temperature dropping in the lower rings. Reserve oxygen reserves flagged for manual oversight. Ops, respond, I said again. Static. Dotting. I switched channels and caught Mark Holloway's signal mid-sentence. Can't isolate it, he said, breathless. It's rerouting faster than the breakers. The channel cut. Mark, I said. Mark, respond. Nothing. I ran. Low gravity helped, until it didn't. Every push sent me floating farther than intended. The corridor felt longer in the dark, stretching ahead of me like it didn't want me to reach the end. I found Mark in Engineering Junction 4 Torch, or what was left of his workspace. Tools scattered. Panel opened IT. Power conduits glowing faintly where they shouldn't. His suit lay on the floor, helmet intact, seals unbroken. Mark wasn't inside it. His console was still active, scrolling error messages faster than they could be read. Last entry timestamp 30 Protocol Black Vault activated without a countdown. 1 second, the habitat was failing in pieces. The next, it was being deliberately shut down. My risk console lit up with a priority banner I'd never been trained on. Black Vault, Data Preservation Mode. Human Safety, Secondary. I didn't need a briefing to understand what that meant. Life support in non-essential sections was cut to minimum. Internal doors sealed in patterns that didn't favor evacuation. Data cores spun up on isolated power, drawing energy away from everything else. Helios was saving the information. Not us. Laura, I said into the channel. Tell me this isn't what I think it is. Her reply came after a long burst of static, as if the system itself didn't want the words transmitted. You were never meant to leave, she said. No apology. No hesitation. Security was selected for containment endurance, Laura continued. Not extraction. If the experiment reached this stage, survivability projections dropped below acceptable thresholds. Acceptable for who? I asked. For Helios, she replied. The truth settled in my chest, heavy and final. All the protocols, the trust, the silence. We weren't guards. We were buffers. Time bought with human lives. A priority alert flashed again. Science node, unauthorized activity. Richter. I was already moving. The science wing was colder than the rest of the habitat, emergency power barely keeping the lights alive. I found Richter near his lab, suit half sealed, recorder strapped to his chest. Daniel, he said when he saw me. His eyes were wide, but focused. It's accelerating. The response curve just went vertical. You need to get out, I said. He shook his head. There is no out, but there is proof. The recorder in his hands was running, capturing raw censored data. Unfiltered. The kind of evidence Helios couldn't spin if it ever reached Earth. I have to finish this, Richter said. If we can document. The lights died. Not dimmed. Gone. My HUD snapped on, painting the room in harsh wireframe. Richter's outline stood frozen in front of me. Then something moved between frames. The air pressure shifted. A sensation like standing too close to an opening hatch. Richter, I said. He didn't answer. My HUD refreshed. Richter was no longer in front of me. He wasn't anywhere. The recorder clattered to the floor, still running, its audio spiking with a burst of static that sounded almost like breathing. No blood. No damage. No alarms. Just another human erased between observations. I stood there longer than was safe, staring at the empty space where he had been, until Laura's voice cut in. Daniel, she said quietly. Step away from the science wing. You let it take him, I said. He knew the risks, she replied. As do you. That was the moment I stopped following orders. I copied everything. Richter's partial data. Power logs. Security feeds. My own logs that Helios had tried to overwrite. I dumped it all into a hardened local cache and tied it to my biometric signature. If I died, it would die with me. Then, I made my choice. Sub-level 0 had a manual system. Old. Mechanical. Designed before Helios trusted all. The manual wheel locked into place with a sound I felt in my teeth. Pressure alarms screamed across my HUD. Red flooded the interface, warnings stacking faster than the system could prioritize them. Sublevel 0 was no longer contained. It was awake in a way it hadn't been before. I stepped back from the hatch and raised my badge out of reflex, not expectation. The reader lit up. Green .shara. For the first time since I'd arrived on Mars, the system didn't hesitate. Access granted. Not because I was authorized. Because it wanted me there. The door slid open with a slow, deliberate motion, as if resisting the vacuum on the other side. Cold air spilled past me, carrying no dust, no smell. Just absence. Sublevel 0 wasn't a room. It was a cavity, carved into the planet, smooth in places where stone should have been jagged. Shapes formed by missing matter, angles defined by what wasn't there. It hurt to look at directly. My HUD struggled to render it, outlines flickering and collapsing. The space refused to resolve into anything solid. Not alive. Not dead. Not empty. The entity wasn't a single thing. It was a pattern stretched through the cavity, shifting when my eyes moved, freezing when I focused. It filled the space without occupying it. My suit alarms escalated again. Pressure differential critical. Structural integrity compromised. Laura's voice cut in, barely holding together. Daniel, step back, she said. We can still stabilize this. You said it would follow, I replied. You didn't say it could choose. The pattern rippled. Not toward me. Around me. I realized then that it wasn't trapped by sublevel 0. Sublevel 0 was the compromise. The smallest space Helios could give it without losing control entirely. I triggered the breach. The override slammed home, and the habitat screamed. Pressure dropped instantly. Not explosively. Controlled, the way Helios designed it. A vent path opened straight to the Martian surface, dumping atmosphere and energy in a violent rush. The entity reacted. The space warped as if gravity had inverted. My HUD went white with error messages. For a moment, I thought it was inside my suit, peeling through layers of protection I'd trusted my life to. Then it pulled away. Not fleeing. Redistributing. The pattern fractured, segments stretching toward the breach, thinning as pressure tore at whatever rules held it together. It didn't scream. It didn't lash out. It recoiled. Alarms shifted. Containment partial. Entity dispersal detected. Ares Prime shuddered. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut across the habitat. Somewhere above me, evacuation sirens began to wail. All personnel, initiate emergency evacuation, Laura announced, her voice stripped of command now. This is not a drill. I staggered back from the hatch as it sealed itself, systems overriding my input. Sublevel 0 was gone, vented to a state Helios would call acceptable loss. The lights flickered back on, harsh and uneven. My oxygen readout dropped. 30%. Enough to move. Not enough to linger. I ran. Corridors were chaos. Crew suits moving in controlled panic, tethering up, helping each other towards surface exits. No one stopped me. No one questioned why I was coming from below the lowest level. Maybe they didn't want to know. Laura's channel pinged again. You need to report to evac point Gamma, she said. I'm not on your list anymore, I replied. She didn't argue. The exterior hatch finally accepted my badge. I cycled through EV protocols on instinct. Seal check. Pressure equalization. Tether secure. The hatch opened, and Mars rushed in, silent and lethal. The surface was calm. Red dust drifting in slow arcs under low gravity. Ares Prime loomed behind me, vents bleeding vapor into the thin atmosphere like wounds that couldn't close. Evac pods launched in pairs, rising on controlled burns. I counted them without thinking. One short. Security wasn't assigned pods. I detached my tether and moved away from the habitat, boots sinking into regolith. My suit thrummed, working harder than it ever had. Behind me, something shifted along the surface. Not emerging. Not pursuing. Settling. Sensors flickered as residual energy dispersed into the planet itself. The entity wasn't gone. It was spread thin, diluted by exposure to an environment that didn't support it. Mars had contained what Helios couldn't. For now. My console chimed softly. Badge status updated. I looked down. Exit authorization confirmed. No return clearance. No safety designation. Just permission to leave. I recorded one last log, my voice steady despite everything. Helios Frontier Solutions lied, I said. They found something beneath Mars and tried to own it. If you're hearing this, don't come looking, don't dig, don't watch. The habitat lights dimmed behind me as Ares Prime shifted into low-power stasis, a sealed scar on the surface of the planet. I turned away and started walking toward the emergency rendezvous beacon, alone under the open Martian sky. My badge cleared me for exit. Not for safety.